I want you to imagine, just for a second, that there's a specific formula for getting, well, literally whatever you want in life.
Right.
And I know as soon as I say that, your alarm bells are ringing. It sounds like the start of some late night infomercial.
Or a dusty self-help scam from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds suspect. We're sort of conditioned to believe that anything valuable has to be complicated, right?
exactly. If it isn't some 12-step program or a lifetime of grueling labor, we dismiss it.
Mm-hmm. We think complexity equals value.
But bear with me here. What if the secret wasn't some complex web of strategies? What if the source material we're looking at today argues that the entire secret, it boils down to a single one-syllable word?
And that is the premise we are unpacking. The source material is a transcript from a talk by a creator known as GrindBuddy. It's titled How to Get Whatever You Want.
And the answer?
The answer, according to this text, is simply ask.
Ask. That's it. And look, my immediate reaction was, okay, sure, wish upon a star and all that. It feels flimsy. But we aren't here to talk about magic tricks. We are here to do a deep dive into the specific notes on the art of asking from this talk. Because when you actually read it, it's not about magic at all, is it?
No, not at all. It's about mechanics. That's the core distinction here. The source treats asking almost like an engineering problem.
Okay.
So the mission for this deep dive is to help you, the learner, understand why you might be working incredibly hard. I mean, burning the candle at both ends and still not seeing the results you want.
Right.
We're going to look at the specific mindset errors that stop people from receiving, and we're going to break down this massive difference between being a good worker and being a good asker.
That distinction really tripped me up when I first read it. Good worker versus good asker. Because, let's be honest, most of us pride ourselves on being good workers. That's the badge of honor.
It is. You show up, you grind, you do the time.
So are we saying that's wrong?
It's not that it's wrong.
No.
It's that it's insufficient. And that is a hard pill to swallow. We have this deeply ingrained idea that if you just sweat enough, the universe owes you success.
Right, the hustle culture.
Exactly. But the source explicitly states, you've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good asker.
It feels a little unfair, doesn't it? Like, shouldn't the work speak for itself? If I'm the first one in and the last one out, shouldn't the reward just happen?
Ideally.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But practically. The source argues no.
Okay, so how does he explain that?
Think of it this way. The source describes asking as the beginning of receiving. He uses this great analogy of machinery.
Oh, right.
You can polish the machine.
Yeah.
You can oil the gears. You can stand next to it looking incredibly busy and responsible. That's being a good worker.
Okay.
But asking
Yeah.
is the act of pushing the button that actually turns the machine on.
So you could spend your whole life just maintaining a machine that never actually runs.
Exactly. And that's the tragedy the source is pointing at. You have people who are exhausted from maintenance, but they've never actually initiated the production process.
I like that pushing the button analogy. It's a specific action. But the source then says something pretty funny about how the machine works, which is he basically admits he has no idea.
Right. He says, I don't even know how it works. All I know is it works. He talks about roots versus fruits.
Study the roots or pick the fruit.
And this is a classic trap for intelligent people like our listeners, frankly.
Right.
We often use understanding as a procrastination tool.
Oh, totally.
We want to know the biology of the tree, the soil composition, the whole photosynthesis process before we are willing to take a bite of the apple.
I am so guilty of this. I will buy 5 books on the biomechanics of running before I actually put on sneakers and go for a jog.
Precisely. It's analysis paralysis disguised as preparation. And the source is giving you permission to stop studying the roots. He's saying you don't need to understand the complex psychology or the metaphysical laws to get the benefit.
You just need to know that asking is the trigger.
Yes. If you get hung up on how the button connects to the gears, you never push it.
Okay, so let's say I'm willing to push the button. I'm ready to ask. This leads to the next point in the text, which frankly sounds a bit delusional.
Uh-huh.
The source says receiving is not the problem. In fact, he says receiving is automatic.
It's a provocative statement.
It's more than provocative. It sounds like nonsense. If receiving is automatic, why isn't everyone walking around with their dream job in a beach house? It feels like he's ignoring reality.
I think we have to look at how he defines automatic. He's not saying you snap your fingers and a Ferrari appears in your driveway. That would be magic.
Right.
He's saying that the process of receiving is a natural consequence of the ask. If the machine is working, the output is inevitable once the input is entered.
So if we aren't receiving, it's not because the machine is broken. It's because we never put in the order.
Exactly. The failure isn't in the supply chain. The failure is in the operator. He calls it a failure to ask.
And there's that anecdote.
Yeah, this heartbreaking anecdote in the notes about a guy the speaker knew. This guy tells him, I got up last year and hit it every day.
We all know this guy. He's the grinder. He's tired. He's stressed. He's doing everything right by society standards.
But then the speaker realizes the problem. He says, there's not a scrap of paper with my goals on it.
Not a scrap of paper. That phrase really stuck with me.
It's the definition of the good worker trap. He was running on a treadmill, lots of motion, lots of sweat, but going nowhere.
Because he hadn't actually told the universe or even his own subconscious where he wanted to end up. He hadn't asked.
Right. Hoping is a passive state. It's a vague desire floating around in your mind. Asking, specifically writing it down, is active. It crystallizes the thought.
It turns a wish into a command for that machine.
Exactly. If you don't have it written down, have you really asked? Or are you just complaining that you haven't received?
That's a tough question. It shifts the blame from the stingy world back to us. But speaking of a stingy world, let's talk about the next part. The source uses this metaphor of the ocean.
He says receiving is like an ocean. Success is not in short supply.
This is the core of the abundance mindset.
But hold on. I mean, if I look at the economy or the housing market, those things are scarce. They are rationed. You can't just say it's an ocean and pretend inflation doesn't exist. Isn't this just toxic positivity?
That's a valid pushback. But the source isn't necessarily talking about a specific resource at a specific moment in time.
Okay.
He's talking about the possibility of success and value creation. The rationing mentality says, I stepped up to the window and the clerk said they are all out of success. Come back Tuesday.
Right. The idea that for me to win, you have to lose.
Yeah.
The zero-sum game.
Exactly. The source is arguing that the limitation usually isn't the external supply. It's the internal capacity to receive it.
And this brings us to that amazing image.
The teaspoon in the bucket.
Yes.
Okay.
Walk us through this, because this is the part that made me laugh, but then it really made me think.
So imagine the ocean represents everything you could possibly want or achieve. Just limitless potential.
Got it.
Most people walk up to this vast, roaring ocean holding a teaspoon.
A teaspoon. You're standing at the edge of infinity, and you brought silverware.
It's absurd, right? But think about why we do that. Why a teaspoon?
Low expectations.
Low expectations, sure, but also safety. If I bring a teaspoon, I can fill it quickly. I can say, I got mine.
I see.
If I bring a bucket, I have to carry it. I have to work for it. And what if I bring a bucket and I can't fill it? That looks like failure. A teaspoon is safe. A teaspoon says, I don't need much, so I won't be disappointed.
It's a defense mechanism. We ration ourselves before the world even gets a chance to say no.
We reject ourselves first. And the source's advice is so simple. Trade your teaspoon for a bucket. At least a bucket, he says.
And he throws in that little joke. If you bring a bucket, kids won't make fun of you.
It's funny, but it cuts deep, you know?
Yeah.
It implies that walking around with a teaspoon is actually kind of ridiculous. We think we're being realistic or humble.
You saying we just look silly?
Yeah. It's absurd to treat an ocean like a puddle. If you truly understood the abundance available, you'd be bringing a tanker truck. But he starts us off easy. Just bring a bucket.
So, practically speaking, bringing a bucket means expanding the scope of what you're willing to ask for.
It means increasing your capacity to receive. The ocean doesn't care if you bring a thimble or a barrel. The water is there. The variable is you.
Okay, so we've ditched the teaspoon. We've dragged this heavy bucket down to the sand. We are ready to push the button on the machine. But how? How do we actually formulate the words?
And this is where we get tactical, because a lot of people mess this part up.
They do.
The first method is ask with intelligence.
Now, when I hear intelligence, I think I need to use big words or sound like a genius, but that's not what he means, is it?
Not at all. In this context, intelligence just means clarity. He has a very simple rule. Don't mumble.
Don't mumble. I love that.
Think about it. If you go to a drive-thru and you mumble your order into the speaker, what happens? You get the wrong food, or they ask you to repeat it 5 times, or you just get nothing.
Exactly. The universe, or your own brain, your reticular activating system, it can't process a mumble. It needs clear data.
So let's role play this a bit, because I want to make sure I'm not mumbling. If I say, I want to be successful, is that a mumble?
That is a massive mumble. Successful means nothing. Does that mean a happy family? $1 million. Winning a pie-eating contest.
Okay, got it. What about, I want a better job?
Still mumbling. Better how? Less hours, more money, closer to home,
Yeah,
a nicer boss.
right.
If you just ask for better, you might get a job that pays $1 more but requires you to work weekends. Technically, that's better, but it's not what you wanted.
I see. So the source lists specific questions we have to answer. How wide, how high, how soon, what size, what color, how much.
This is the checklist. So to try again, turn "I want a better job" into an intelligent ask.
Okay. I want a senior marketing director role in the tech sector with a salary of $160,000, fully remote, starting by October 1st. Boom. Now that is an ask. The ambiguity is gone, and the source uses a powerful metaphor for why this works. He says goals are like magnets.
The better you describe them, the more they pull.
That's the physics of it. A vague goal is a weak magnet. It has no pulling power. But a highly specific, high-definition goal, that's a supermagnet.
And this isn't just woo-woo magic.
No, this is neuroscience. Your brain has a filter called the reticular activating system. It filters out millions of bits of data. When you define a goal, that specifically marketing director, 160K October, you are programming that filter.
So suddenly you start seeing LinkedIn posts you would have scrolled past. You overhear conversations you would have ignored.
The red car effect. You buy a red car and suddenly you see red cars everywhere.
You tune the receiver.
Exactly. So step 1, don't mumble.
Yeah.
Be hyper-specific.
But then comes step 2, and I feel like this is where the skeptical listener and, the skeptical part of me starts to resist again.
Ah, yes.
Because step 2 shifts from the intellectual to the spiritual.
Yes. Step 2 is ask with faith.
And the source makes a really interesting comparison here. He contrasts faith with adulthood. He calls faith the childish part of the equation.
This is such a fascinating juxtaposition. Usually we're told to grow up, be realistic, look at the data.
Right.
But the source argues that adults are too skeptical. We've accumulated too much evidence of failure. We've been burned. We know the odds are against us. And that skepticism kills the ask.
So the adult in us looks at that big bucket and says, there's no point carrying that, I'll never fill it.
Exactly. The adult is the risk manager. The adult talks you out of it before you even start.
So what's the solution? Do we just act like naive children?
No, and this is the brilliance of his formula. He doesn't say be a child, he says make plans like an adult and believe in them like a child.
Make plans like an adult and believe in them like a child. That is the bumper sticker right there.
It's the ultimate synthesis. You need adult logic to define the dimensions, the how much and how soon. That's the intelligence part we just talked about.
That's your roadmap.
But a roadmap is useless if you don't believe the destination exists. That's where the child comes in. The child provides the fuel. The child doesn't care about market conditions or the unemployment rate.
The child just said, I want this and I'm going to get it.
Yes. And it really highlights the danger of being only an adult about your goals. If you plan like an adult and believe like an adult, you probably just end up with a very sensible, safe, low risk, and slightly boring outcome.
Or you end up with nothing, because the adult brain is an expert at finding reasons why something won't work.
It's too risky. I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
Now isn't the right time. That's the adult talking. You have to suspend that cynicism just long enough to let the machinery work.
It's about being willing to look a little foolish to your inner skeptic. You have to
Yeah.
carry the bucket even when your logical brain is saying, that's just salt water, right?
Precisely. And the source promises that if you can combine these two, the specific rigor of the adult and the blind faith of the child, the most incredible things will happen.
Okay, so we've got the theory. We've got the machinery, the bucket, the intelligent ask, the childlike faith. But I want to make sure we leave our listeners with something concrete, because believing like a child is hard to put on a to-do list.
Right. And the source gives a very specific call to action. He calls it the 90-day challenge.
And I love how he sells this. He says, just try it. You can always go back to the old ways.
It's the perfect risk reversal. He's acknowledging that you might be skeptical. He's saying, fine, be skeptical, but give me 90 days.
Right.
If being miserable and stuck is your thing, those old ways will be waiting for you in 3 months. They aren't going anywhere. You can always go back to your teaspoon.
So what does the challenge actually look like? If I'm listening to this and I want to start tomorrow morning, what do I do?
First, stop just working. Sit down and become an asker. Take a literal piece of paper, not a mental note, and write down exactly what you want. Apply the intelligence rule. Define the color, the size, the date.
Okay, step 1, write the specific magnet. Don't mumble.
Step 2, check your container. Are you asking for a teaspoon's worth of change or a bucket's worth? Challenge yourself to scale up the ask.
And step 3,
Step 3, is the daily practice of faith. Read that piece of paper every single day. When that adult voice in your head says it's impossible, you actively switch to the child mindset. Believe it is already on its way. Do that for 90 days.
It's a short enough time to be manageable, but long enough to actually see if that magnet starts pulling.
And think about the upside. If the source is wrong, you waste a little bit of paper and some mental energy. You looked a little silly. Big deal. But if the source is right,
Then you've unlocked the machinery of receiving. You've moved from just grinding to actually creating.
yeah, it really forces you to look at your current situation differently. If you aren't happy with what you have to look in the mirror and ask, is it because I'm not working hard enough?
Or is it because I simply haven't asked?
That's the crux of it. We often double down on the work because it feels controllable. It feels noble to suffer in silence. Asking feels vulnerable. It requires us to admit we want something we don't have.
But the work alone won't trigger the receiving. You have to push the button.
You have to push the button.
Before we wrap up, there's one last thought I want to leave you with. It's a throwaway line in the source material, but I think it sums this whole thing up. He says, "The world admires the doers."
And that's true. We build statues for the people who grind. We applaud the struggle.
We do. But the implication of the text is subtle and powerful. The world admires the doers, but the rewards.
The rewards go to the askers.
That is a provocative thought to end on. If you are frustrated right now, look at your life. Are you exhausted from doing, or are you starving from a lack of asking? Maybe it's time to grab a piece of paper, find a bucket, and write down exactly what you want.
And don't be afraid to ask for the ocean.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.